Last day we have completed different type of measures that we can use in case of machine learning. Uh, Today we will discuss about different type of supervised learning problems. So supervised learning can be defined in two ways that we already know. One is classification and regression. So what is classification? It is a process of finding or discovering a model or function which helps in separating data into multiple categorical classes or discrete values. So that means basically our aim to, in case of classification, our aim to find a curve. That curve is basically represent visual representation of the function that will basically segregate two different set of points which represents various patterns. Now if you draw a graph, in the graph one of the axis will actually represent the output, and depends on the output we actually, I mean depends on this input and output, we put all these points and then we try to somehow find out, we have to find out a curve. So obviously when we don't have any knowledge, we will start from an arbitrary curve, and time by time we will try to improve those various free parameters that actually make the curve, so that ultimately we can get a clear boundary that can segregate that two set of points. So we have a situation something like this. We can see there are two different images are given, because classification can be defined in actually two ways. The most easy, I mean basic classification that we always consider, that is binary classification, which categorizes given data into only two distinct classes. For example, on a basis of a given health condition of a person, we can determine whether it can be diseased or not. I mean, for example, there are a lot of different tools are there, machines are there, which actually gives your sample, maybe in form of blood or in form of saliva or in form of something else, and then it somehow find different portions of your different, I mean particles of present in your, or virus present in your blood, and then depends on that it says that okay, I mean this person has this disease or has not. So question is that who is actually deciding that within the machine? There is some classification algorithm written within the machine. That algorithm is taking the input your the blood sample containing various parameters, and depends on the parameter, either it is saying yes, it is a diseased person or it is not a diseased person. So that's why it is called binary classification. But in real world there are many cases where the number of class may not be two, maybe more than two. In that case we go for multi-class classification. Multi-class is, multi-class means more than two. It can be 3, 4, 2, 300, 400, doesn't, I mean there is no limit. Now question is that how multi-class classification is possible. I mean ultimately if we want to consider a curve, then how we can divide the curve into different direction to do a three-class classification, right? So you can assume actually what algorithm does, that multi-class classification actually, I mean divided into a number of binary classifications, in a sense that if we can assume that this is a binary classification problem. So if I draw a boundary like this, that it's very easy to segregate these two. But if I draw a boundary, then it is one boundary is not sufficient. So what multi-class classification algorithm does, it considers these, I have three classes I can see over here, right? So basically I need at least two boundary. So what actually algorithm does, algorithm considers initially as a binary classification problem, and somehow it segregate two set in one side and another set in another side. For example, something like this. So first, the multi-class classification algorithm, we will consider this whole thing as a binary classification algorithm. These two are all of the same class and this is in different class, that's why this one has been drawn. And after that, what data is left, on that data it produce another binary classification algorithm, find another curve that can segregate these two data, something like this. So that means multi-class classification is a in a combination of many binary classifications. Now how it is happening and what is going on, that in detail I am not going in that part, because our aim is to ultimately continue with artificial neural network. But ultimately with these artificial neural networks, the classification problems or the regression problems that basically will solve, you know, those, that just a flavor of the different type of cases we are actually gathering over here. Okay, so now question is that how this classification actually work. That example is given that suppose we have to predict a given patient has disease or not on basis of three variables. Obviously these three variables are called features, you already know that. And you see there are either it is diseased or not diseased, so either true or false or maybe yes or no. So it's very clear that it's a binary classification problem, right? So that means you see we have a set of observations, all the training data that we know, which comprise of sample data with actual classification result. We have to train some model. I mean we have to train a model, that model is called the classifier of this data set, so that it can predict with some unknown patient, right? So that means now question is that, you know, how much better the model will be, how we can understand, right? So that's why those different type of measures was there, right? And so let's see how the classification actually work. This particular diagram actually shows what's actually going on. So we have a training data set over here that you can see easily. We have a training data set here. This training data set contain a, a large array, right? Large array is a large matrix, not array, large matrix. Say n cross m matrix. I mean, if I consider, I can write it's a n cross m matrix. What is n? N is the number of patterns. And what is m? M is number of features. Okay, so definitely depends on problem to problem. This pattern and n and value of n and m will vary. But other than this n number of features, we have one more thing, that is this y. This y is the predicted level that already we know for those set data, I mean set of data. And the teacher actually, you know, we always say that classification algorithm, you know, in case of supervised learning, that we have a teacher. So what the teacher is doing, teacher is taking this y and giving the algorithm this y, so that the algorithm can understand its error, the mistake. Let's see what happening. From this training data set, some pattern x is coming, and with the extracting features, ultimately there is this model is nothing but some function which takes input these features from one of the features, I mean feature of a particular pattern, the for example the set of features of the first pattern, and produce some y. So this is what actually predicted, and this is y is actual. Now, obviously, in the initial state, this ML model is not trained well, so that the y hat that it will generate will not definitely may not be definitely same as what actual was, right? So that's why this y came here and this y came here. So what is generating the what this quality metric is generating? It is generating the error. This error is actually, this error is actually giving up the ML algorithm to adjust the free parameters that I told you, that if we have a very simple function f equal to a1x1 plus a2x2, like this, that's all. So this a1 and a2 are the free parameters, right? So with some x1 and x2, it will basically produce some y hat over here, and for that particular x1 and x2 I know what is actual y. Depends on this error, that means y minus y hat, the error that is generated, depends on this error, somehow this a1 and a2 will be modified in such a way such that for the next pattern this ML model will result much closer to the actual y that it should have. And you see, we can easily see one thing, that we have a loop, we have a number of observation, one by one when we put the observation in the ML model, we find y, corresponding we have the actual y, we get the error, depends on that we calculate the new value of the free parameters. Use the new value of the free parameters, we do the same thing for the other the other patterns of the training data set. And after some time, when the error will be very low, for example, say we have a threshold 0.001. So if I find that error is lesser than 0.001, we can say that okay, the error has been optimized a very a lot. So the model is actually generating almost very close result to the actual y. So that means I can say the model has learned well, right? So then we can test how much model is working with respect to the test data, right? So this is the whole thing we have. Now we have various types of classifier in machine learning that we have listed over here also. But among these various types of classifier, we will use this artificial neural network for our case, right? So now let's go for this regression problem. What is regression? Regression is the process of finding a model or function for distributing the data into, distinguishing the data into continuous real values instead of using classes of discrete values. So one very interesting difference, visual difference we have in case of regression, that if we consider that we have a set of points, suppose this set of points are from um, one class, and this set of points is from another class. So what the classification algorithm will try to do? Classification algorithm will try to make a boundary between them so that it can basically segregate. But in case of regression problem, if a problem is given to you, so the regression problem doesn't make any distinguishable boundary. Rather, it considers a curve that can basically go through most of the points, so that in near future, for some new unknown x value, we can predict the corresponding value in y, value of y. Okay, so there is no segregating boundary in case of regression problem. It is totally different. Okay, so for example, something like this, that we have a set of points. Ultimately, what will be our goal? Our goal will be to fit a data over here, fit a data over here. I mean, sorry, fit a line over here, and you see, obviously, in most of the cases, it is not possible that the curve will touch each and every point. Even if I can say one thing, that if you find the curve touches, if the points are very much non-linear, okay, very much non-linear, for example something like this, the points are not really placed in on the curve exactly, right, they are scattered. So if the situation is something like this, and you find the curve after learning with the function that is generated, the function represents, I mean, in such a way that it actually touches each and every point of the whole feature space, then there is a high possibility that you have a overfitting. Okay, so definitely it's not expected that the curve will touch each and every line, but what actually our goal is? Our goal is to find a curve that not doesn't touch each and doesn't need to touch each and every line, rather as a whole the sum squared error is minimized, sum squared error between different points. For example, if I consider this is the optimal curve we have found, so, and this is the original point, so the point presented over here, so with respect to this, considering this curve, for this value of x, the corresponding value of y is something like this. But actually you have to have seen, for this value of x, actual value of y is this one. So this gap is the difference, error, right? This is an error. This is an error. Similarly, this is an error. So each and every point must constitute some error. Maybe 0.9, maybe 0.00001. Doesn't matter. Some error. So as a whole, this error, if you accumulate, it produce, if you just do the squared error, and if you add these errors, you will get a sum squared error. You have already seen in my previous class. What is a sum squared error? Now, what is your goal? Your goal is to optimize this sum squared error somehow. Now, how we can do that? Using artificial neural network, that we will see. Okay. So, other than the artificial neural network, there are other techniques also. Since our goal is only for neural network, I am not going in the other part. We don't have so much time. Okay. So, basically, that means you can say that that mean it's something like, you see, if you are able to do this, we can, what we can do basically, we can find the, actually we can predict what can be a possible value of y if we have a unknown x point. You see, I don't have any exact value over here. I mean, maybe, if I consider a value of this point is unknown, I mean some unknown data, then what could be the value that I can predict from here, right? Now, you see, there are different type of regression also, that if we have only one feature, that's we call simple regression, and we have a two or more features, we consider multiple regression. Just like multi-class classification, In the same way we have multiple regression. Okay, so now I mean all these one features or two plus features, I mean simple or multiple regressions can be categorized in two way. One is linear regression, another is non-linear regression. So non-linear regression is nothing but just putting a non-linear curve so on a set of data, because all these things that we are actually considering are linear regression. For example, something like this. So all these things that we have just discussed is a linear regression. So linear regression is a method to predict a dependent variable y based on values of independent variable x. Right. Now, uh, now what could be the corresponding curve that represents this function? Something like this: y equal to b0 plus b1x plus e. This e represents this error which constitutes some, as much this e will low, the curve will be better. And what are the free parameters? This b0 is a free parameter, b1 is a free parameter. So basically, when we will apply some algorithm for finding this curve that can actually optimize the error between all the points with respect to the predicted points on the curve, we actually optimize this b1 and b0. So it is an example. We have an example of this linear regression and of linear regression as a data set. Okay, so actually the point will be given something like this, and it is actually a one feature, I mean simple linear regression, because we have only one feature x and only one output feature y. If we consider that we have multiple input feature x, then it will go for multiple linear regression. But this is an example of simple linear regression. Okay, so now let's come for the logistic regression. You see what we have in this example, that we have table having various ages, and it's given that whether a person has taken an insurance or not. Now if you watch this particular table very with in attention, what you can is find out, you see most of the people having some age below 30 or 35, they are not interested to take any insurance. They don't have any insurance right now. But as the age increases, the probability of getting insurance or having insurance has increased. Right. So now, till now, what we have we have seen that we can fit a curve. Now you see, if I put the data set somewhere over here, we can see the points are given something like this, where one represents they have the insurance, something like this, 1 1 and 1, and this 0 represents they don't have any insurance that we have. So in place of 0, this x-axis represents the age. So corresponding to different age till 30, you see most of the points are in 0, right? And corresponding to age, maybe more than or equal to 40, the maximum number of points are in place of 1. Now question is that till now, with the knowledge of the linear regression, if we try to put a curve, then what will happen? It can be something like this. Can be something like this, right? So one thing that we can say that, okay, just take a 0.5 point through the curve. So if I assume that this curve is representing the probability of getting insurance or not, so this particular 0.5 point. If the points are greater than 0.5, if the probability is greater than 0.5, so we will consider from 1. If it is the point is lesser than 0.5, we will consider as 0. So according to that, you can easily segregate this most of the points from 1 with most of the points of 0. Obviously you can say that these 2 points and these 2 points are what we call outlier. What outliers means? Outlier means you can assume in this assume something like an exception. Okay. So because you see that if you really want to make the see the distribution of the data which who have not taken any insurance, the most of the part which should be somewhere on here. Actually, it should be somewhere on here. This part. But these 2 points, just because of these 2 points, the distribution will become different. But which is the percentage of chance of having insurance, having no insurance with very older age is minimal. That's why these two are called, I can assume that it's an outlier. Okay. So till now this is okay. This, I mean, curve is representing fine most of the points. But problem will occur if I add another person, say, whose age is 80, whose age is 80 or more than 80. So to keep the point 80 in the same, I mean, at that time, the linear regression line that you will find out, because of this age 80 years, this particular age, the linear regression curve maybe will become something like this. Now, when the curve has changed, now what will happen? You see, if you take the 0.5, these 2 points, what was previously in this side, it become, sorry, it become in this side. So some persons having, you know, you can say age lesser than or maybe equal to 45, they will become, in this part. So the number of outlier is started increasing, right? So naturally, that means I can say one thing, that this particular function is not going to produce an effective result that reflects um, this particular table. So what to do? Here the logistic regression function comes. The logistic regression, you see, instead of putting the curve in this way, if I put a curve something like this, you can see it will become pretty better. The outlier has been decreased. You see, the outlier has been decreased here. We have only one outlier, something presented over here, right? Only one outlier. But in the previous case, we had two outliers. So naturally, I can say that this particular curve is fitting better. This is typically what we call sigmoid function. Okay, so in case of logistic regression, mostly we actually, in case of logistic regression, we try to put a special function called sigmoid function in such a way so that it can basically fit most of the points. But one thing is very important over here, that this, although the name is regression, but logistic regression actually used for classification problems, because you see that we have 2 points, we have either 1 or 0, there is no intermediate values present, right? So logistic regression is used for a classification problem. It's not a, although the name is regression, but it is not a regression problem. So, and on which basis it works? It works on the basis of the probability of having insurance or not, or I mean probability of some a class with I mean with probability of some class with respect to another class. And you see, so that means in case of logistic regression, that sigmoid function is defined something like this. This particular phi function is actually a universal function that represents sigmoid function. This is our input data. This is our input, which is represented as 1 plus e to the power minus x. So 1, some people also write in this way, 1 plus e to the power minus x. Okay. So naturally now question will come, how I can adjust this curve, right? How I can adjust this curve. I mean, if we consider that we have a curve something like this, let's take a, I'm sorry. Let's take a curve something like this. Suppose we have a point, we have some points and some points here. So basically our goal will be to do something like this. This one is 1 and this one is 0. Now it can be something like this also. I mean, my point is that how I will I will actually adjust the slope of this particular curve, because there is no free parameter, right? This is a dependent variable and y was independent variable. Where the free parameter is, this particular sigmoid function can be written in more generalized way in something like this, in this way, like 1 by 1 plus e to the power minus a into x. Depends on this a, you see, depends on this a, actually we can produce more smooth or more strict, you know, sharp, I mean change of this particular curve from 0 to 1. So basically what we can do, we can adjust this a such that we can fit most of the points to the sigmoid curve for the training data. Now what will happen for some new example? If I consider that I have a training data something like this, so if we add a new example at x equal to something like this, what we will do? We will find this corresponding value of y with respect to the curve. Now obviously the 0.5 is present somewhere over here. So if I find this probability of having y, probability of y for this x is say 0.65. So 0.65 is greater than 0.5. That's why the class of this unknown weights will be considered as 1. That means true or something else. Depends on how you are interpreting your problem. Now Why sigmoid? Why not others? Because later you will realize that this sigmoid has a very interesting feature. If you do the differentiation of this sigmoid function, which is given over here, it will become something like this, and ultimately we will find the differentiation of sigmoid function is something like this. The sigmoid function itself into 1 minus sigmoid is its own differentiation. So it will be pretty, this differentiation will be highly useful in the next classes, when we will basically derive the learning algorithm in an artificial neural network. Okay, so this is a very simple linear regression use case model that we can easily understand. You see that we have a monthly sales with respect to the advertising cost, and depends on that the different task has been organized, the line has been considered, so that we can understand for some particular advertising cost what monthly sale I should expect, something like this. And similarly, we have a, I'm sorry, it's not a linear regression use case, it's a logistic regression use case. You see, since it is logistic regression, that's why depends on these various CGPA, there are only two classes. Either admission can be taken or not in between something value. But ultimately after getting this curve, I will get, for example, some unknown person came and with some CGPA 6.5. Okay, suppose a person came with, sorry, some 6.5, some value which is 6.5. So what will happen? Corresponding value of y will get, and this is say 0.4. The probability of getting admission for the CGPA 6.5 is 40%. Now since 40% is lesser than 0.5, that means we can predict that no, for this 6.5 CGPA there is a high possibility to getting no admission, something like this. Okay, so now as a nutshell, we can see the differences with respect to linear and logistic regression, and you can find this difference over here. I will share this slide with you. Okay, and now let's come to the difference with this classification and regression problem. You see, classification is the task of predicting the discrete class level, where regression is the task of predicting continuous quality. In classification problem, data is classified into one or more classes, which is where in regression problem it required to prediction a quantity. In case of classification problem, for example, there is a classifier in your email server, because you will see in your, say, Google Mail, if you have a lot of, in the left hand side you have a lot of different directories, some a directory for trash, a directory for storing the spam. So that means when a mail came from some web server, what the Google actually doing, Google is checking the mail with respect to some features. Definitely Google is not reading your mail, but there is an automated machine which is checking various other features, from where the mail came, what is the size of the email, is there any exe file present attached with the email or not. So these various things are considered as features associated with the email, and those features are input to the classifier present in the Google Mail server, and that classifier decide whether the mail can be spam or something useful. If it is spam, you will see that the mail automatically entered in your spam folder. You don't need to do that. So there is a classifier present in your Google Mail server, or maybe in other mail server also. Okay. Similarly, regression also, you can see a regression point is something like this. Now, if we come for the supervised to unsupervised learning, what we have seen in case of supervised learning, there we have a teacher. Teacher in the sense the teacher is actually giving you the actual class value or actual output. Depends on that the ML model can identify its error, and depends on that it can adjust its free parameters so that the error can be minimized for the near future. But in case of unsupervised learning, as I told you that there is no teacher, so there is no level. Just if you have a set of points having levels with associated with it, it can be used for a supervised learning. But if you just forget about the levels part, the only feature set that is left will become, if you want to, you know define, if you want to make a segregation between those set of points with similar type of class, basically what you can do, you cannot basically identify exactly which class it is. Rather, what you can do, you can segregate with respect to some parameter, that this set of points are different than that set of points. And that is why the learning algorithm that is required is unsupervised learning. So generally, what we call it is a clustering. Okay. Just like we have classification for supervised learning problem, for unsupervised learning problem, most of the cases are clustering. What is clustering? It is a technique for finding similarity groups in a data. That is what we call cluster. Now, in a cluster, what actually happened, I have a diagram over here in the letter. Still, I am telling you here that if we have a set of points, for example, if I have set of points here, another set of points here, another set of points here, you see, we can say easily, we can identify there is a cluster in this part, there is a cluster in this part, and there is a cluster in this part. So what is the property of having generating these clusters? That each and every point present within a cluster is very near. But if you consider 2 points from two different clusters, that will be very far. If this two measures doesn't maintain correctly for each and every points, then the cluster is not, I should say the cluster has not properly created. If you find that just opposite situation, that distance between, for example, something like this, suppose I have 4 points here, okay, something like this, and now assume that we have seen something like this, we have drawn a cluster something like this, is not going to be a good cluster. The reason is that the distance between this point and this point is very small, where distance between this point and this point is very large, although they are in the same cluster. This one is not expected. Okay, so somehow we have to if the cluster is good, then this point has to be maintained. So as I told you, I told you with this that we have a 3 cluster look something like this. Okay, so now for example, a group of people with similar size together to make small, medium and large t-shirt. Okay, or maybe marketing segment clusters according to their similarity. For example, there are many other things. For example, suppose that you have a lot of documents. Okay, you have what you can do with respect to with respect to the similarity between the documents, you want to make a cluster. Some documents are from some literature, some documents are on, say, different type of historical places, some documents are on some other things. So depends on that. If you want to segregate the documents, you need a clustering, and before doing the clustering, what you have to do, you have to find the similarity between the two documents. Now if I assume in a very in a hyperspace, this document is representing a point, so basically that means what you are doing, you are basically calculating the distance between 2 points, and that a cluster does. Okay, distance between 2 points. So there are different type of clustering techniques present: partitioner clustering, hierarchical clustering, and many more. We are not going in detail of clustering techniques because in particular course we are not interested for clustering right now. But one thing is clear, that distance is very important. In the basic point, I mean, we are just understanding the basics of clustering. That in case of when you will write an algorithm for clustering, there this distance function is going to be very vital. How you are calculating the distance, which represents the similarity and dissimilarity, and this will be our goal. So for a clustering, this is the goal of clustering, that intra-cluster distance will be high, has to maximize the inter-cluster distance, and intra-cluster distance has to minimized. Okay, so there are a lot of algorithms we have, such as k-means algorithm, k-medoids algorithm, many other clustering algorithms which actually does this. So we are not going, we will not, I will not in this particular course will basically discuss about the k-means, I mean different clustering algorithms. If you are interested, then what you can do, those who are interested, they can together contact me, and then we can I can teach you only. Okay, now from here we can start with artificial neural network, but if I do one thing, we can stop over here for today, because it's better to use it's better to start the concept of artificial neural network from a fresh day, and we will see a lot of things will be there. For example, how we can recognize, how a machine recognize a person, and various things over here, something like this. All these things I think you can see. So we can stop over here for today. So in the next day, from the next day, we will start the learning strategy of artificial neural network. So all these different problems that we have seen, different problems in the sense linear regression, logistic regression, and many other things, all can be solved by this artificial neural network technique. So till now, what we have seen, what is classification, I mean, what is supervised learning? What is unsupervised learning? Under a supervised learning, what is classification? What is regression? Under classification, there are binary classification and multi-class classification. Under regression, we have linear regression. One more classification technique we have seen, that is logistic regression. Now, how much good your model is, to realize it, we need some measures. That's why we have seen different type of measures in a in a in a sense, something like quality metric, say precision, recall, and many more, right? So all these things actually will be useful when we will start the artificial neural network and start writing algorithm for solving some problem. For example, there will be some, I will give you some example of a linear regression problem, and through the artificial neural network technique, you have to solve that. And when you will solve that, if I ask you, tell me why you are saying that your model is very good, prove this. To prove that your model is good, you need those confusion matrix, where we have true positive, false positive, true negative, false negative. So if you don't have those previous knowledges, it's not possible to prove that your model is good. Okay, so that's why everything is required. Anyway, so we can stop over here for today. Next day we will start artificial neural network. Okay, thank you.